Welcome back to Orks Discuss. Today, after many requests, Smart Boy Finky Pants and Zork Gorkson will finally be discussing Karl Marx. Let's join them now.
Oi, Finky Pants! Oh, hey, Zork, I was just working on me curriculum for class. What you got there? I got me this book on Karl Marx. No. What? What do you mean no? You didn't even let me finish. No, I'm not talking about Karl Marx. What? I was just... Look, Zork, anytime any get talks about Marx, all the Yumis and Grots get really weird ideas in their head. A lot of them get really mad and start rebelling, saying there needs to be a revolution. Another bunch of them get really mad and start talking about personal property rights and how Marxism leads to starvation, and none of them really seem to know anything about what Marx said. Mostly on account of I don't think any of them actually read the stuff that Marx wrote. Look, the point is, for whatever reason, Yumis can't just read Marx as if he was a normal, influential smart boy of his time and consider the merits and flaws of his arguments. I was just gonna see if you needed this book cause, I was gonna nick it to fix that tilty table I got in me hut. But, if I could just yell Karl Marx in a crowd of Yumis and get a good scrap, well, let me just say you got me interested. Alright, we'll talk about Marx. Okay, so Karl Marx grew up during a time called the Industrial Revolution. This was when Yumis was just first starting to get flash gubbins for the first time. So in order to get all these flash gubbins, they got these big smoke belcher factories, and all the Yumi squig farmers moved to the big cities to get work. Except that working in the big smoke factories wasn't a lot of fun for Yumis. Long hours, loads of Yumis got crumped in the machinery, and they didn't get paid a whole lot of teeth for this work. So a bunch of different boys saw this and tried to come up with a way to fix the Giddish way of doing stuff. Karl Marx was one of the smart boys to write on it. So Marx was what's called a materialist. Was a materialist? I was like a gubbins boy. I believed that the way people lived their lives was primarily shaped by the materials around them, instead of the ideas they had. So to Marx it was materialism over idealism. Basically everything about how you lived your life was based around how much gubbins you had. So to Marx, the boys who owned the factory was treating the Yumi Grots real bad, and it weren't fair. Marx said that the profits of the factory bosses were created by the workers, so that any profit that they earned was being unfairly taken from the workers. I don't get it. Basically, the Yumis did 4 teeth's worth of work and then only got paid 2 teeth. He also says that all of Yumi history is the bosses being ditched to the Grots. The history of all hitherto existing society is the history of class struggles. Freeman and slave, patrician and plebeian, lord and serf, guildmaster and journeyman, in a word, oppressor and oppressed, stood in constant opposition to one another, carried on an uninterrupted, now hidden, now open fight that each time ended either in revolutionary reconstitution of society at large or in the common ruin of the contending classes. I'm starting to see why he makes Yumis uppity. Yeah, I think Marx makes stuff too simple, which makes it easy to understand, and that's why Yumis like it so much. Everything is made into a class conflict. There ain't no cultural conflicts, religious conflicts, conflicts related to familiar or tribal ties. No, everything is just money, and the bosses beating up the Grots to make them do grot work. Probably because that was what he saw all around him. So how come he didn't just crump the bosses and take over? Well, that's exactly what he said workers should do. workers is what Marx called grots. Marx believed that stuff would get so bad that the workers would rise up and overthrow their capitalist bosses. So, then they become the new bosses, right? No. So what he wants them to do is sort of live with no bosses. All of the companies will be collectively owned. Everyone as a group will decide who got teeth and how much. Sounds like a soft, squishy way of doing things that's gonna let a boss take over pretty easy. Look, some boys is bigger and better than other boys, and that's why they's the boss. Also, there's other stuff in the universe that ain't all about gubbins. Gubbins is great, but I love fighting and raising squigs and fighting again. Well, Marx lived in a time where it looked like all the good stuff that Yumis liked doing was getting stripped away by the bosses just to make the grots work all the time. Marx called the Yumi money bosses the bourgeoisie. Sounds like a pansy word. Oh no, it might be a pansy word. Anyways, Marx says, the bourgeoisie, whatever it has got the upper hand, has put an end to all feudal, patriarchal, idyllic relations. It has piteously torn asunder the motley feudal ties that bound man to his quote-unquote natural superiors, and has left no other nexus between man and man than naked self-interest, callous cash payment. It has drowned the most heavenly ecstasies of religious fervor, of chivalrous enthusiasm, of Philistine sentimentalism in the icy water of egotistical calculation. It has resolved personal worth into exchange value, and in place of the numberless indefeasible chart of freedoms has set up that single unconscionable freedom, free trade. In one word, for exploitation veiled by religious and political illusions, it has substituted naked, shameless, direct, brutal exploitation. That's a lot of words just to say the money bosses are gits. Well, you know, Yumis take a lot of words to say stuff. You know, this all sounds good. These boys is gits, let's crump the gits, no more gits. That sounds like a fun time. But I don't know why Marx thinks that when the grots get in charge, they won't become git money bosses themselves. He's like, no, grots is just good and they won't stick a stabber in your back when you ain't looking and nick everything for themselves. Yeah, I mean, Marx's perspectives make sense in the context of the Industrial Revolution, cause stuff was really bad, and a lot of the money bosses were being great big gits to the grots just so they could get a few more teeth. Anyway, so what happened? Did Marx get his communist revolution? Well, sort of. A bunch of boys had communist revolutions. But eventually the biggest, meanest, baddest bosses ended up taking over and making the grots work in the factories even harder with less food and teeth. The other money bosses, to make sure that they didn't end up getting snicked by the communists, ended up making deals with their grots so they wouldn't get so uppity. Factories had to be safer, tiny Yumis weren't allowed to work no more, the Yumi grots got paid more and got more time off, and they were able to form unions, which is basically like having another boss that fights your first boss. So, what do you think? After all that, is Marx a git, or is he a smart boy? I think that Marx is mad about stuff in a way that makes sense. You don't want to grind up good grots in your factory, and Yumi's is a lot more sensitive to that than Gretchen's, so you know, I'll get it. But it don't seem like he understands Yumi's very well. He seems to think that all bosses are gits, and all grots aren't gits. There are bosses that ain't gittish, and there are grots that are great big gits fit only to be squig bait. I'm all for fighting and crumpling a gittish boss. But the answer isn't making it so that there ain't no bosses. If you don't have a boss and everyone decides all the stuff all the time, nothing ever gets done. It makes you and your boys weak because you don't do stuff fast, and it makes it easy for the next boss to come along, knock a few heads, and become the new boss. So, can I nick the book to fix me table? Yeah, that sounds good. I don't think I put a Marx in the curriculum. Oh, and if you need a doorstop, you could take this Atlas Shrugged thing too. Yumis get real weird about that one too.
This has been Smart Boy Thinky Pants and Zork Gorkson discussing the works and teachings of Karl Marx. If you ever feel the need to snick your old boss, just become the new boss and do boss stuff better. Don't try to get rid of bosses in general, because it always leads to someone who isn't you becoming boss, and that boss might very well be more gittish than the one you had to begin with. Do try to keep some semblance of civility while discussing Marx, because if a scuffle does indeed break out, it can sometimes draw the attention of bored orcs who have been looking for an excuse to smash a few heads. So do be careful. Farewell and good luck.